Particularly during the time of our nation's founding, the old adage rings true. Behind every great man is a great woman. Today, we continue to celebrate the contributions of so many ladies who came before us. We're joined by Jill Templeton, a regent with the ELIZA Lucas PINCKNEY chapter of the National Society Daughters of the American Revolution. It's so good to see you, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So when we're talking about that time in our history, many of these women, they were the wives of some very powerful men, but they too also had to make some big sacrifices. We're in the midst of war and just all kinds of famine or disease, any number of things that they had to fight their way through. So that's kind of what I wanted to focus on when you're talking about this time in our history. Who are some of the significant women that you like for society to understand today?
Well, locally, there was Rebecca Mott, whose house was occupied by the British. And after several days, the American forces said, we can't get them out without burning down the home. And she said, I'll do it myself, and shot the home with a bow and arrow. There was Emily Geiger, who was delivering a message to a general, for a general, was captured by the British, chewed up the letter, swallowed it, and then still delivered the message. Yeah. So Susanna Smith Elliott is another local heroine. Among other things, she hid American soldiers in her home. Her contributions were recognized by one of the generals of the Revolution as he was dying. She was one of the last people he mentioned. Wow. You know, there are also the women who we may not know their specific stories, but they were the camp followers who provided meals and helped with laundering. Some women were taken prisoner. It kind of runs the gamut on how women contributed during the American Revolution.
They certainly did. And the one which your chapter is named after, ELIZA PINCKNEY, tell us more about her.
Fascinating individual. We chose her specifically for all of her accomplishments as our chapter namesake. She had a very keen interest in botany, but also a brilliant mind for business. So she is credited with making indigo the second largest export from the South Carolina colony, next to rice. And this is the colonial time pre-revolution. We're lucky that we have her letters. We have so many of her writings, and we can know so much about her. She, one of my favorite things I've read is there's a line where she says, you know, this is pre-revolution. We must build timber. We must grow timber because we will need it for masts for ships. By the time of the revolution, she was in her 50s. Both her sons served and were quite famous. She had a daughter, Harriet. So those are her three children. One of the contributions that we know she gave, besides just raising these children to be very patriotic, was she gave a loan to the government to support the cause of the American Revolution.
That's incredible. What do you want today's women to take away from those stories?
I think what's important to know is that we might not know their stories because they haven't been passed down, but what we can do is try to learn from those we do and find out more about them and teach our daughters of the important places that women played in history.
Yeah.
Important roles women played.
Well, certainly, and just their steadfastness and their ability to kind of see the forest for the trees, to want and fight for a better future. It's all incumbent upon us to keep wanting to do that. Just real quick, tell us a bit about the Daughters of the Revolution, of the American Revolution.
Well, the Daughters of the American Revolution is a service organization. It is open to any woman 18 years or older who can prove direct lineal descent from someone who served the cause during the American Revolution. To find out about membership, one can visit dar.org. We have a wonderful research system available to the public called the GRS, that you can find on that site. We have several local chapters. In fact, we have 4 local chapters here in the Charleston area. And we focus on patriotism, historic preservation, and education.
So I imagine that you can trace back to the Revolutionary time?
Absolutely.
That's amazing. So when did you do your family tree?
I've worked on it over the years, well over the years. It's a joke. It's never ending.
Yeah, I'm
Absolutely never
sure.
ending.
I've dabbled in it myself a little bit, but it's never ending, and the branches go on forever. It's truly, truly fascinating. So, when you trace back to this time period, can you tell us about your ancestor?
Well, I actually have about 30 ancestors who served in the American Revolution. But
Amazing.
I was telling you, part of it is just where everybody was during that time.
Yeah.
I think everybody who joins these organizations will find once you find one person, you find another. And then it's never ending.
That's wonderful. Well, we so appreciate you telling us more about this. And of course, anybody who's interested in learning more, maybe their history also traces back, they can go to your website, dar.org. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We're back after this.